Welcome back to the channel, guys, and I hope you guys are doing pretty good. So a lot of you guys were saying, please release the part 2 of the API automation framework. So here it is, guys. This is the part 2 of your API automation framework. Now, in the part 1, guys, we saw the first time where we were writing test scripts for your API automation framework with REST assured, and particularly we introduced a new design pattern. What was the design pattern over there? Service Object Model. All right. Now, the second thing over here, guys, we ended up overwriting couple of tests for the different components, different services. Now, in this particular lecture, we will be speaking about logging. How do you log the request and the response, and you put it in the log files? Along with that, we will also integrate the framework with GitHub Actions so that you have an end-to-end picture how exactly this test is going to be executed in your CI pipeline. Now, the thing is, if you haven't watched the part 1, okay, this particular lecture is going to be a complete bouncer for you guys. So I'll advise you guys that if you found this particular video separately on YouTube or somewhere else, please make sure you watch the part 1. Okay, I'll put the link in the description section or in the comment section of this particular video. If you have watched the part 1, this part 2, guys, is going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, when I was taking this particular class for students, I felt that this particular lecture was a little bit tricky, a little bit complicated. Okay, because the concepts which were coming over there was kind of new. All right. So what I thought is I will put the video where we'll be building the entire framework and all. But before that, we will just discuss some basic concepts that you should be aware of logging and filtering in REST assured. Is this part clear? So we will be just having a theoretical session first for like 10-15 minutes, and then you can just watch the part where I am building the scripts. Okay. Now let's get started. See, guys, this is the part 2 of the end-to-end API automation framework. Yes or no? Now, in the part 1, guys, what we did was we created the service layers. Okay? And for these service layers, I have written the test. Yes or no? So if I have to talk about the structure of my automation framework, let me just draw it for you guys. Over here, guys, the framework that we have created is basically a Java Maven based project. All right. Now, in this Java Maven based project, if you have seen the Maven projects that you create, you always have SRC main Java. Okay. You have your SRC test Java coming into picture. Now, generally, you can keep the components in your SRC main Java also. I don't like that particular stuff, so I generally keep it in SRC test Java. Now, in SRC test Java, the first component that I created was com.api.base. So over here, I have created a class which is called as this API base.java. And this particular class which I have created is basically what is an abstraction, okay, over REST assured. Okay. So whenever you are using any library, whenever you decide that you're going to use Selenium, you're going to use APM, you're going to use REST assured, you're going to use your JSON utility, your JSON, your Jackson coming into picture, or you decide to use Logger. All right, any kind of external third-party library that you use, it's always better that you create abstraction. Okay. So why we did that is so that when I'll be writing my test scripts, it's going to be a pretty simple Java concept. I'm going to create a class, I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to access the method. As simple as that. I don't want to write something like given, when, then, so on and so forth. Now, some of you guys will be thinking that, Jatin, you can just use the REST assured given, when, then scripts, right? So I can just create a test method, and inside that particular test method, I can just write given, right? Then we are going to have the header, the base URI, okay, the body, And then I can use the when script where I can just make the post, get, put, delete request, and then I can do the assertions. The problem with this particular approach, when you actually use all your given when then structure over there, if tomorrow I am going to make any change in my base URI, if there is going to be a change in the body and all, wherever these scripts are going to be used in your test, you have to keep on making changes. So this is not maintainable. Okay, this is not maintainable. To overcome this particular problem, we decided we will be using a design pattern. Okay, and that design pattern is pretty simple. It's there almost in all the applications of the backend. We generally use that. It's basically your service object design pattern. All right. We use a service object design pattern. And what we do in the service object design pattern is you would be given a Swagger doc, right? And on the Swagger doc, you will be having, let's say, a service which will be given to you. Let's say we have been given a service called API /auth. So auth over here is my service. Okay. And in auth service, I will be having various endpoints. Let's say I'm going to have login. I'm going to have logout. Okay. I can have create account. Okay. Something like that. Now login, logout, create account. These are what endpoints. These are basically going to be the operations that are going to happen in auth service. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a class called auth service and auth service.java, and this is going to extend API base. So in this particular class, I will be having all the methods that are there in API base. I can easily access it off. Now, in your auth service, the login, logout, create account, these methods will be there. All right. These methods will be there. And when I'm going to hit a login request, what do you get back? Response. So these methods will always return you the response. Okay. Will always return you the response. Now what happens is, because we have an auth service class which has these three methods, okay, what we can do over here is, instead of writing the test scripts given when then, what I can do is I have to just create the object of auth service. Okay, and I can just access the method. I can pass the credentials, and login method is going to return me the response, and then I'll be validating the response. As simple as that. Maintenance becomes much more easier. Okay, I see a lot of videos over the YouTube and over the internet. They generally go with the given when then, but they really don't really focus on how exactly you'll be maintaining the scripts in long run. Okay, so for that particular reason, like, it's good to learn from those videos, but the problem that comes over here is those scripts are not maintainable in long run. Okay, you will definitely learn rest assured and all, and learning rest assured is not a like a complete complicated thing. It's a very simple thing. Okay, so if you're aware of Java, if you understand how Java works, learning new libraries is not going to be a very big thing. It's a pretty simple thing actually. Okay, so please make sure, guys, you understand the various design patterns and how exactly you will be maintaining the scripts in long run. Okay, you're not just going to write 20, 30 tests. Think of a bigger number, 400, 500 tests. And if there is going to be any kind of a change which will come into picture, let's say there is a change in the endpoint, there is a change in the header, there is a change in the body, will your test scripts be affected with that? Okay, will your framework will be able to handle those incoming changes, the changes which are happening in the development? Will you be able to incorporate in your framework, right? Those are the things that you should always focus on. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. So we have the com.api base, and inside this API base, I have the API base, which is basically an abstraction over rest assured, and I will create the respective service classes. Service classes are going to have the respective endpoints of that particular service, and all the methods will return me response. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. Quickly make a note of this particular point. Now, of course, we have the com.api base. The next thing that comes into picture is going to be com.api.test. So this is where I'll be writing all my test scripts, pre-test ng, and you will be accessing the auth service classes over there or service classes over there. Now, the next thing that will be there in your framework is going to be something which is going to be called as com.api.model. Yes. What is the purpose of model? In your model, you're going to have two things: request and response. What you're going to have? Request and response. What is this request and response? You have to attach payload, na? You have to attach payload. You will be getting the response back in JSON format. Then you need to also assert them. So what we do, we will be creating the Java classes, or some of you guys call them Pojo classes. Okay. And these Pojo classes will be created for both request and response. Benefit: you can easily pass the data. You don't really need to hard code. You don't need to keep the JSON somewhere. Of course, you can do that approach also, because rest assured provides you with different ways of passing the data to your API request, right? So over here, guys, either I can create a Pojo, or I can just have a hard copy or a hard coded JSON that I have kept it somewhere and I can pass it off over there. But we have gone with Pojo classes. Okay. So you will always create payloads model. Okay. And you will attach these models in your login request endpoint. You'll pass it to that. All right. So this is something that we have seen in the past class. I'm quickly doing a revision for you guys so that you understand how it's done. Now, the next thing that we have done, apart from that, I'm just looking at these things, what we have done over here. We have seen auth service, bait service, SRC test. Yeah, that's the thing that we have seen in the last class. Okay. Now, let me just rub this particular board quickly. Now, in today's class, guys, we will be focusing on two things, or I would say three things: loggers. Okay. The second thing is going to be filters. And the third thing is integrating the framework with your GitHub Actions. Sometimes people ask, Jatin, you are integrating with GitHub Action. Is it a different thing from Jenkins? Suppose I want to integrate with the framework with Jenkins. You can do that. Okay. The way I have created this particular framework is such that if you want to run it with your GitHub Actions, or you want to run it with GitLab Runner, or you want to run it with your Jenkins, the steps remains the same. Okay. Steps will remain the same. Your ultimate goal is to always run the test from the terminal. So if I'm able to run the test from the terminal, then it doesn't matter whether you do it with GitHub Actions, your Jenkins, okay, you want to do it with, let's say, GitLab Runner, it will still remain the same. You just need to know the command, how this framework is going to be executed. Okay, if you have seen the Sdet foundation, okay, we have discussed this particular part in detail. Okay, I'll put the link in the description section. You can check that part also. Now, when I'm talking about logger, in Java, if I have to generate logs, which library comes into picture? Log4j. Okay. So, when you're looking at log4j, guys, what happens is you will need two libraries of log4j. You need log4j API, okay, and log4j core. Okay, you will find these two things from the Maven repository, Maven dependencies. You can search it from there. But these are the two dependencies that you're supposed to add. Okay. Now, what are filters? This is going to be a very important interview questions for you guys. Like in interview, they can ask, like if you say that you know API testing and if you have created the framework with rest assured, definitely they can ask what are filters. Now, one word about filters that you should always remember is filters help you intercept. Yeah. What is this intercepting? Okay. What does intercepting means over here? Intercept basically means that, let's say I have something which is getting started from point A and I have to go to point B. If there was no interception happening, the thing would have been going in the straight line. Okay. Interception basically means is this thing is going to happen in a straight line, but someone came in between, did something, and now it's going to go from C to B. So if I want to, like make some modification in between, things are going to move from A to B only. But the point is someone is coming in between and making some modifications. Okay. That is what you call as intercepting. That is what you call as intercepting. If you have seen any football match and all, like someone is trying to pass the ball from one player to another player, but in between the opponent player comes into picture and then try to take the ball from there. That's what intercept means. So over here, when you look at filters, filters are always meant for intercepting. So what is going to happen? You always, let's say you're making a request. You're making a request in rest assured. Now, request is going to be made. This request has to reach to the server. Okay, this is my server. Okay. Now, before the request reaches the server, okay, I want to make some kind of a modification. What do you mean by some kind of a modification? Modification can be anything. I want to capture something from the request. Okay. I want to make some changes in the request. All those things I can do it. But for us, we want to capture something from the request. What do I want to capture? I want to capture what is the base URL. I want to capture the endpoint. I want to capture the header. I want to capture the body so that I can log this thing, okay, in my log file. Similarly, once I capture this particular stuff, I will log it and then I will again continue with the request. Okay. And the same thing happens in the return also. When the server processes the request, it is going to return the response back. Before the response reaches your test for further validations, you're going to do the testing over there. It is going to go via the filter. And what filter is going to do? Again, it is going to capture what? Request, so it has captured. Now it is going to capture the response. It is going to capture the response. Okay, what were the headers? Then what was the payload? Or let's say the response payload, right? Response time. Okay, then status code. All these things I can capture it off. Okay, now the thing is, these things, okay, when the request is made and I'm getting the response back, in between I'm trying to get those informations. That is what you call as intercepting. And to do that intercepting, you need filters. Okay, this is the theory that you should be aware of. All right, now, so we will see about loggers and you see about filters. One more important thing about is these things are, I need to capture it off when my test is getting started. Okay, when my test is getting completed, if my test is failing, right? I need to capture all those things. Is there a component in your API automation framework or in your automation framework that can help you understand which test got started, which test got failed, which test got skipped? Is there a way you can get that information? Yes. You get it with the help of? Yes, I know you know the answer. How do you get that information? You get it with the help of listeners. So we will create the component in such a way that filters and listeners are communicating with each other. Somewhere on the lane, we have to do that part. Okay. Yes, this is something which is important. And once it is done, okay, our main goal is to run the framework from the terminal. And in order to run the framework from the terminal, you are going to use a very important plugin, very familiar plugin. You might be heard about it. If you're using Maven, have you heard about this plugin called Maven Surefire plugin? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I will introduce the Maven Surefire plugin. I'm going to pass the parameters. Okay. And those parameters, Maven Surefire plugin is going to receive it and it is going to execute my test. Okay. So that my command remains something like this, Maven test. And then you can do the execution. All right. This is something that we will be building in today's class. So make sure guys, you create projects, you put it in your resume, and during interviews, you can tell them that this is the project that I have built. Okay. So that it gives the confidence to the interview that this candidate knows what he has done. Okay. What he is aware of. Okay. This is something that you want to um, showcase during the interviews. But else it's going to be a very difficult thing, like in long run. You have to learn things by building projects, and that's the ultimate thing that we do it in the main course also, that we always build projects, and else it's the same thing. You come to the class, you see someone on the Zoom calls, okay, he's writing the code or she's writing the code. That doesn't work. All right. So please make sure guys you complete this particular stuff, and in case of any doubts and queries, you know where to reach out to me. So without wasting time now, let's get started with the part 2.
I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Everyone is able to see the screen. Yes, no? Okay, cool. So probably just till tomorrow, I'll be taking the API automation framework. By tomorrow, it will be completed. So before I start with today's class, I just want to show you what exactly we want to build for today. Just a moment. I've already pushed this particular project. This is a separate project, but something similar. We will try to build it for today. If you have already solved the Telit assignment, you will be, yeah, is my screen visible to everyone, right? I hope you guys are able to see the screen. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So something like this, I want to build it off. So if I go to my actions, you will be able to execute your API test on your GitHub Actions. The second thing over here, you'll find an option which is called as the test ng results. So whatever is the execution of my test, which test is passing, which test is failing, all those things, I will be directly able to see it on my GitHub Actions dashboard. Okay. Now, this becomes very useful for people if you're trying to use any CI tool like Jenkins, your GitHub Actions, your GitLab Runner. Probably I don't want to see the report. I can just go to my GitHub repository and I can just see the actions logs, right? So whatever will be the build, I can just go over there and I can quickly check what is working, what is not working. Of course, screenshots is not something that we will be needing over here, but having this kind of a dashboard for your API test is going to be very useful. Now, a couple of days back, there was this one student of mine who was got this particular interview question. What are the enhancement that you have made in your framework, right? So you need to be sure that you just don't say one or two things. You really need to have a lot of things in your arsenal, right? You should really talk about like these things, like how the dashboard got created, how you are integrating it with GitHub Actions, the various design patterns, like I showed you the service design pattern or the service object model that we have seen so far. Okay, how you were writing the test. If you have seen the Telit assignment, how we try to optimize the test scripts. Okay, how you're avoiding if else statement, conditional statements, your loops, your try catch, your iterators and all those things in your test. The test is always meant to be kept clean, small, simple, so that it's easy to execute it off. Isolations of the test that we have done so far. So that's something that like you really need to be aware of whenever like if they ask for the enhancement perspective. Now, the notes for this particular stuff, I've already published it off. I do. How many of you guys have practiced day one and day two? Whatever things we have done over here, I have you revisited it off? Is this yes, no? That's more important. Can you put it in the chat box, everyone? Because if you have done, then day three and day four is going to be pretty simple. Nothing fancy I'll be teaching over here. It's just going to be the implementation part, which is going to be done. So if you are just going to complete till tomorrow or something, you're done with the API automation framework. Okay, at least something awesome that you can really talk about in interviews, not even just in interviews, you can really use it in your office projects and all. So if I go to day three, The document is, I think so, you have bookmarked this particular URL, right? So this is going to be the same stuff. I have just introduced a new sections, new study material over there. Now, if you have already solved the tell it interview question, this is going to be a cakewalk for you. Okay. So this is just a prerequisite. I'm telling you that whatever I'll be doing right now is going to be very much similar to the Selenium assignment that I've solved, okay, and kept on the LMS. So this is just an extension for that. Okay. So in today's class, we will understand what are filters in Rest Assured, okay, and how you're supposed to use filters. Um, we will also be majorly focusing on generating the logs for the test scripts. Okay. So obviously log4j will come into picture. We already are aware of how exactly we are using log4j or how you're supposed to use log4j in your framework. We have done that part, so we will integrate it over there. Okay. And most of the things you'll kind of find is similar that we have done it in the tell it part. Okay. So that's something that we'll start doing it over here. Now, over here, guys, the first thing that I want over here, if I just go to my test, let me just launch the dashboard. Uh, just give me a moment. I'll be keeping everyone on mute for now. Okay, thank you. Now, going back to your demo API automation framework, this is what we were working so far. So just quick revisit what we have built so far. So over here, we started first by writing test, right? If you remember, we were writing the test with normal rest assured. I have still kept this particular script over here. If you write this particular script like this, okay, the problem is of maintenance. So we started to do static import, meaning if you look carefully, rest assured is a class which already has static methods and static variables. So you're not supposed to write rest assured.base URI and all. We went to introduce given when then structure. So we write it given base URI header body post. So this is basically what you call as method chaining, right? And this was fine. Okay, it was doing decent job, but again it is not something which I can use it for testing of microservices, because the problem that comes into picture is isolation is not possible. There's a hard level of dependencies on each of these test scripts that we'll be writing. So we started improving it off over there. We introduced the service object model, and what service object model does is you are going to create your respective services. So I have created this com.api base package. Over here, the first thing that I created was this base service class. This base service class is basically your wrapper over rest assured. Now, we create wrappers so that we can introduce abstraction. So over here, what happens is instead of remembering this entire chaining of methods, though it's not difficult to remember it off, but when you write test, it looks a little bit complicated. So over here, guys, what happens is when you create these wrapper methods and all, writing of my test scripts is going to be simple. The same thing I have done it in the browser utility. The same thing you do it in the APM utility. Use the same thing you do it in Logger. The same thing you do it in extend report. The same thing you do it in Excel. So no matter what library you are going to use, you have to create some kind of a wrapper over it so that it is going to be much more easier for the folks, people who are writing test scripts to understand what exactly this method is going to do. They don't need to do the hard drilling of fixing and understanding the code. So over here, we have created this particular wrapper, and over here we have, it's going to take care of creating the request specification. You can attach the header, you can attach the, like you can make the post request, and we are directly returning the response over here. Okay, that's something that we have done. And for each of the service layer, we have respective class. So auth service extends base service, and whatever is the base path I will be creating over here, and each of the method will be the respective endpoints. So if I'm going to hit this endpoint, I'll be getting the response back. So internally, the login request calls the post request from the base service. Okay, that's something that we have built over there in the previous classes. So no matter how many service layers you are going to have, you can go to the Swagger doc and you will easily understand. So if I go over here, let's say if I scroll a little bit up and I go to the Swagger doc, if looking at the Swagger doc, I'll come to know, okay, authentication controller, I can see a service section. Whatever will be the APIs over here, no? These will be the methods. Account number with get, user, these are all going to be my methods. Inside that, they will call post, get, and get request. So account will be my class. Make sense to everyone? Yes or no? This is something that we have seen. So for each of the controller section, you will create the respective classes. And these respective classes will have these many methods over there. So mock UPI controller is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 methods. All right. So that's something that we have built. Yeah. Sorry, there was a issue over here. Now, the next thing that comes into picture is the request and the response. Whenever you are going to have any kind of payloads, right? You will be attaching the body to the API request. So if I go to the post request, probably I want to attach some kind of a body, right? So these body, my dear friends, we need to pass to the request, and we can pass it off by creating something which is called as models. So I have created request model and response models. Now for most of you guys, what is this model and all thinking? Simple Pojo class. Variables will be instance variable will be private. There will be a constructor. There will be getters and setters coming into picture. All those things you need to create it off. So this is what the model is going to focus on. And I have this log and request model. Now over here, guys, this is something that we have created. Variables are private. Then you are going to have log and request, get user response, setters, toString method coming into picture. Similarly, for the response also, we have done something similar. This is something that we have. Okay, variables are going to be private. There's going to be a constructor, so on and so forth that we have created. Now, if I go to the user profile response, this is what we have. Now, the next thing that comes into picture is writing of the test scripts. So over here, if you look carefully, for the sign up request, the way I have created this particular request, which design pattern is coming into picture over here? This is the builder design pattern. So sometimes when interview, they will definitely ask, what are the different design patterns that you are aware of? Page object. Okay, don't say Pojo. Say your singleton coming into picture, your builder coming into picture, your factory coming into picture. The main reason they ask about various design patterns is because if you're using design patterns correctly, these are rules. If you're implementing the design patterns correctly, it means that you have used object oriented programming correctly. Okay. What is the advantage of having the builder design pattern? The benefit over here that comes into picture is I can pass the parameters in any order. Are you getting the point? Yes or no, everyone? Yes. This is the benefit that you get when you're using builder design pattern. So I don't need to remember the number of parameters that are going to be there. अपने order में कैसे भी मैं भेज सकता हूँ. Okay. There is already a class which I have uploaded on the LMS. So if you go to the LMS, you will find something which is called as the builder design pattern. So it is going to give you a better perspective on how exactly things needs to be created over there. All right. So the complete object oriented programming, okay, till abstraction, it's abstract classes, you will find it over the LMS. So along with that, if you're revisiting Java and all, okay, along with this, you definitely want to check those things out. It's really going to help you out understand things in a much more deeper level. Now if I go to the sign up request, see, this is something that we have created. Sign up request. Oh, this is the constructor. And over here, we have created a inner class. Okay. And over here, we have created this builder class. Okay. So a class which is going to be inside another class is going to be called as your inner class. And inner classes in Java is going to be static in nature. Okay. You can make it static. It's not necessary. It cannot be non-static. But for builder design pattern, we try to make it static. Now, there is one more thing that you can really use it to improve it off. In builder design pattern also, you can make or you should make the constructor as private. Now, the question that comes into picture is what is going to happen when you make the constructor as private? Okay. This can be an interview question. what is going to happen when you make a constructor as private? Can I create the object of this particular class? Yes or no? Can I create the object of a class which has a constructor as private? The answer is yes. I can create the object of this particular class, but I can only create the object within the class. You see, build method is creating the sign up request ka object. It is calling the constructor of sign up request within the class. What happens when you make the constructor as private is you take away the privilege of creating the object outside of the class. I cannot create sign up request ka object now in any other class. Make sense? Within the class, I will be able to create it. इसके बाहर मैं नहीं बना पाऊंगा. Are you getting the point over here? Yes or no? Are you getting this point? Yes, no? Are we on the same page, everyone? Okay. Now, because of this, this really helps us out because now when I'll be writing any of my test, so they have to use the builder method. Okay. They have to use this builder constructor and only then pass it off. Makes sense to everyone? You will get the object in a hash code or the instance reference, but it has to go via builder. So I cannot write new sign up request and start passing the parameter over here, which we were able to do it in the previous class. Now you are not going to do it. So please make sure if someone asks you in the interview, can the constructor be private? Most of the people are going to say yes. And in which design pattern? Most time people say it's going to be singleton. It is partially true. You should also make it private in your builder classes. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Are we on the same page now? Right? Can I go ahead? Now, over here comes the next part, that is we want to generate logs. Okay, this is something that we want over here. Generate the logs in your automation framework. Now, obviously, you will be using the log4j library coming into picture. So if I go to your pom.xml file, okay, and let's say if I go to the overview, I have already added this particular dependencies. If I go to dependencies, there is going to be log4j API and log4j core. Nothing fancy over here. You guys can generally just go to this particular document from the day 3. You can add these two dependencies, the log4j API and log4j core. This is something that needs to be added when you are generating or you are going to use the log4j library. Both the dependencies are required, core and API. Is this part clear to everyone? So this dependency, I have already added it in my framework. Now we are supposed to use it. So over here, guys, we need something which is called as this log4j2.xml file. Once you have added this particular dependency, API and core, go to the src test resource and introduce a file which is called as log4j2.xml. I can delete it and I can recreate it for you guys. Nothing fancy over here. Just right click, create a new file. The name of the file is not going to change. It's going to be log4j2.xml only. Tell it assignment, same stuff. Now over here, guys, what are you going to have? If I'm going to, I'll start asking questions because most of you guys have already done this particular stuff. If I'm going to talk about log4j2 XML file, if I have to configure this thing, what is going to be required over here? What is required in the log4j2 XML file? What setups things are need to be required over here? Just the appender? Nothing else? What exactly will be required over here? The structure I'm talking about. So the point that is over here is the first thing that you want to talk about. Wow, file. When I'm looking at the structure, okay, just give me a moment. When you're looking at the structure, the first thing that you need over here is the configuration. And inside the configuration, you are going to have appenders and loggers. So it's pretty simple. Okay. Though you can just copy paste it, it's not really a big thing. But obviously, if you're copy and pasting it also, you need to know why you are creating certain things. So just remember, you're going to have something which is called as configuration. The first thing, the node basically starts from configuration. You're supposed to give this particular configuration. Sorry, just give me a moment. Please don't draw whoever is drawing on the screen. Okay. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to give is the configuration, and you can give a name, you can give a status. So you can just going to call this as status is going to be, let's say, as warning. Okay. And this particular configuration is going to have something which is called as appenders. Okay. Something called appenders. Now, in your log4j, we technically need two kinds of appenders. What? How many kinds of appenders? Two kinds of appenders. One is going to be what? What kind of appender? First one is going to be console based appender. So you see inside appender, we have console based appender. And the second one that I need is basically the file based appender coming into picture. So I'm going to just say console. Okay. And I'll have the configuration of console. And the second one is going to be the file based appender, which will be there. Now you'll be thinking, what exactly is this appender and all? See, when my logs are going to be generated, where do I want to showcase my logs? As simple as that. मैं अपना logs कहाँ पे दिखाना चाहता हूँ? So my logs, I want to show it on the console. I want to see it on the execution. Along with that, I want a file to be created, which is going to be, that is going to be the file based appender. एक log करके file बना दो. So the configuration takes care of where this appender needs to be shown. Is this part clear to everyone? So I'm telling that for this framework, this particular project, I will need two kind of appenders coming into picture. The first one is going to be the console based appender, and the second one is going to be the file based appender. So is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Yep. So don't, like whenever you have to explain, like in the interview also, right? Answer it in this structure only. If I'm going to have a log4j, I need the configuration. The configuration is going to have appenders and loggers. We'll just focus on appenders for now. Now, rest of the stuff is pretty simple. You just give a name to this particular appender. I'm just going to call it, what is written over here? Console. I'll take the same name for your reference. So this is going to be console based appender. That's just the name we need over here. And the next thing that comes into picture is something called as target. You write system.out.println. So that's what you need to write, system underscore out. As simple as that. Okay. So I'm just going to say target. Just write in capital system underscore out. Okay. We'll come to the pattern layout later. Same, I'm going to do it for file also. So I'm going to say this is going to be a file based appender. So the name I'm going to give file. Okay. So just going to write over your file. Okay. And the next thing that comes into picture is file name. So this file log will be created where? It is going to be created inside logs/test log file. That will be the name of this particular log file. So I'm just going to say over here as file name. The convention is same like your Java camel casing. And I'm just going to say log, create a log folder. Inside that logs folder, create a file called test.log. As simple as that. Is this part clear to everyone? So one, the logs will be shown on my console. Second, the log4j is going to create something which is called as this logs folder, which we don't see it anymore over here. It's going to create that folder for us. Inside that test log file will be there. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Are we on the same page? Okay. Next thing. But once these logs are generated, what needs to be shown? उस log file में मैं लिखूंगा क्या? इस console में मैं डालूं क्या? Right? That is where pattern layout comes into picture. Okay, so you're going to create something which is called as pattern layout. What will be the structure? Okay, how this particular stuff will be shown. Okay, so we'll discuss those things in a moment. I'm just going to say pattern layout, and this same pattern layout I'll be creating here. This pattern layout, my dear friends, is going to have a pattern. Okay. So this pattern layout, you need to create something which is called as a pattern. So I'm just going to copy this and I'll explain you in one by one line. So over here, let's say this is going to be a pattern. And pattern, the first thing I want is the timestamp. That is, I want to know at what particular time the entire log was created. Okay. That is something that I need. So you show it with %d. Okay. %d. This %d, okay, I can configure it. If I'm just going to leave it like this, Okay, just give me a moment. I can take a better one. Yeah. If I'm going to take this percentage D, what is going to happen? It's going to go with its own configuration of showing timestamp. But I want to control it a way I want. So I'm telling first show me hours, then show me minutes, then show me seconds. Okay. And then the remaining seconds. So this is how it is going to be shown. I can just copy this particular stuff. Okay. And I can keep it over here. Is this part clear to everyone? Same, I can do it over here also. So pattern equal to this. So it is now if I run this particular stuff, only thing that I will be able to see is the timestamp और कुछ नहीं दिखने वाला मेरे को. But I don't need just the timestamp. Na? I need other information also. The next thing that is there over here is something called as percentage T. So this is basically the thread name which is coming into picture. Okay, which thread is getting executed over there. Okay, so since if you are going to have something called as, let's say, parallel execution, so which thread it was running, it is going to give me the thread name. If you are only going to do sequential execution, let's say you just want to do an end-to-end testing in one shot, so single thread will be needed that time. So only main will be written over there. Is this part clear? So this percentage T means your thread name coming into picture. So इसको square bracket लगाना जरूरी है क्या? The answer is no. This is the pattern कि आप बता रहे हो कि थ्रेड का नाम स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट के अंदर डालो. ओके, सो इफ आई वुड हैव लेफ्ट percentage itself, percentage T itself, then it would have shown me in that format only. But if it's going to be in square, now square bracket में main लिख के आने वाला है. Okay, so this is something that we are controlling it off. So this is going to just give me the thread name. Okay, so I can just attach this chap over here and I can attach this chap over here. Okay, both the places your pattern layout will be exactly the same. You're not going to change it anywhere because whatever is generated on the console, I want to see it on my file. The next thing that comes over here, SS microseconds tak you want to go it off over there, but I will suggest you don't keep it off if you want. SS tak is fine. Hours, minutes, seconds, and okay, that's the level. So next thing is the level, whether it is an informational log, whether it is a debug log, whether it is a warning, whether it is an error, all those levels will be shown to you. So whatever is the level, you take it off and you attach it off over here. Same, I'm going to do it over here. Done. Okay. So over here, whether it is an informational log, whether it is going to be a debug log, whether it is going to be a warning, all those things will be shown to me. The next thing which comes over here is something which is called as percentage logger. If you remember, if anyone remembers what exactly percentage logger is going to give me, and 36 over here is the length. What is the percentage logger signifies over here? Percentage logger basically is going to give me the class name from which class this particular log was getting generated. It is going to give me the class name, exactly the class name which is going to be there. कौन सी क्लास में से वो मैसेज आया. ओके, सो परसेंटेज लॉगर इज गोइंग टू गिव मी द क्लास नेम, percentage message is going to give me the message that I'm trying to print, and percentage n, once this entire stuff is going to be printed, it is going to go to the next line. Percentage n signifies print the log and go to the next line. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Are we on the same page? Now, just to repeat it, this is going to give me the timestamp. This is going to give me the thread name. If it is going to be a single threaded one, main will be written. This is going to be the level, info, debug, whatever. It is going to give me that stuff. This is going to be give me the class name. You're going to get the fully qualified class name. Then this is going to be the message that you're trying to print, and percentage n is going to go to the next line. Clear? So this is the pattern. This is how I am telling log4j Baba, I want the output in this format. One, it is going to print it on the console, and the second one, it is going to write it in the file. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Did you understand this entire structure, what I have created so far? Okay. This is not something that people will tell you to write it in the interview and all, but like they can always ask, banaya to structure to yaad rahega. Okay. So the next thing that comes into picture is the final thing comes into picture is logger. Okay. So this is something that you really don't want to change it off. Percent. This is basically -5 is the padding. -5 is like if you have info, debug, your warning, in सबके words के characters अलग है ना. So if I want to just make sure that the padding, the spacing is correct and all, that's the reason %5 hyphen -5 is written over there. Okay. So that's the reason. Even if you remove it off, the output will still be there. The only thing is वहां पे आपको spacing कम लगेगा. Okay. And once this is done, you will introduce the logger. Ski Baba, you are telling logger, then start using it off over here. So just copy and paste it off. Nothing fancy. Logger, the root level is info. So I'm telling that capture everything from information level, and both the stuff will be shown. All the informational message will be printed on the console and it is going to be written on the file. Clear to everyone? This is going to be exactly the same. You are not supposed to change anything over here. So from informational message level, your console will be shown, like the messages will be shown on the console and the file. If you're not writing this part, it's not going to work. Okay, you just created the appender, but logging is not getting started over here. So that's something that you have to introduce in the log4j. That's the only thing that you need. Done, finish. Okay, let's close all these things. So if you remember, we are just focusing on generating the logs. So we got this thing into picture. Now I want to know, I want to generate the logs. What exactly the information will be there in the logs? Which test got started? Which test got failed? Which test got skipped? When the test was executed, when the test got finished, who is responsible for all these things? Who is responsible for all these things in your automation framework? Who can take care of all these things? How do I come to know when the test is started, when the test is failing, when the test is getting skipped? Listeners, listeners will come into picture. You have solved the assignment, guys. Come on. What that assignment you guys are solving over here? Package. So I'm going to create over here a new package which is called as com.api.listeners. Okay. Now the next thing that comes into picture is I'm going to quickly create a class and I'm going to call this particular class as my test listener. Finish. Okay. This story remains the same. This particular class is going to implement which interface? Which interface is going to come over here? Public class test listener will implement which interface? Fast, I need input from everyone. I test listener implements I test listener. Okay. Now, you see, I'm not getting any method overriding request and all because we are using a different version over here of test ng. And over here, they are using something which is called as the default method. So the only benefit that you get is whatever the methods you want, you can introduce it from here. Okay. So what I want right now is I want the on start method. I'm going to copy it, paste it off over here. Okay. Paste it off over here. Just going to call this as public. Okay. Control Shift F. Previously, you were supposed to implement all the methods. Now you don't need to do all those things. Okay. So I got on start. Then I want on test success. One by one, you're going to copy whatever the methods you need. Make it public. Next. Just give me a moment. Then I want on test failure. Then I want a test which is going to get skipped. So on start, on test success, on test failure, on test skipped. And finally, I don't want on test build within a certain timeout. I don't want that. I just want this on test finish. Okay. So these methods I'm looking for. So I'll just add it off over here. Is this part clear to everyone? We have done it a lot of time. Clear? Yes, no? Can I go ahead quickly? Okay. Now we have to introduce the logs. So over here, guys, if you want to use the log, you will use something which is called as logger and log manager. Okay. So if you look carefully, test listener, implement site test listener, and I have this particular snippet which is there. So whenever you're generating a log, okay, your code is going to look something like this: private static final. Okay, I'm using logger. Okay, so I'm going to create a reference of logger and log manager dot get logger. So over here, you are supposed to pass the class name. Okay, so whatever the logs which will be generated over here is going to be from the test listener log. That's what we are trying to say over here. So just do a control space. And over here, you see I'm getting logger from lot of different packages in Java. You are supposed to use the one which is an interface org.apache logging.log4j. You're supposed to use this one. And log manager, you are going to use this chap from the log4j one. Be careful. Don't select anything else. Okay, it's not going to work then. Done. Save it. Now, over here, we wanted to generate the log. So I can just say over here logger.info. And I just want some kind of a message to be printed over here. Okay. So the message can be something like test suite started. Okay. Copy this. And over here, this is going to be on finish method. So I'm just going to say completed. Save it. Copy this. Now over here, my dear friends, I want to give the test name. So we say this iTest result variable. Now we're going to use that only. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say result dot get method name. And I'm just going to say over here something like this. Started. Okay. And then I want to probably have the description of this particular stuff. Okay. I'm just going to say get the description. Finally, if the test, this is not finished, this is on start. This is going to be passed. Sorry. This is success, no? Okay. This is passed, and I'm just going to copy this, put it over here. This is going to be for failure. I'm just going to say the test has failed. Okay. And I just say this is going to be skipped. Something like this. Now, obviously, if a test is failing, it is not something which is a info, right? So you can use something, let's say, if I go over here, I can go for a fatal message, something like this, because just indicating that this is something which is a major problem. Okay. Or you can just use the normal error popping up into picture. Okay. So I can just go for error. Okay. And this is just going to be an info that the test got skipped. Now, one method I have missed over here on test success is there. I need one more, which is on test started. This one. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to introduce this also over here and change the method, like from default to public. Just copy this line, paste it over here, copy this, put it off over here. I'm just going to say test started. Okay. So I don't need the description over here. Is this part clear to everyone? What I've done over here? This is how I've generated the logs in the previous classes also. Clear to everyone? Nothing fancy that I've done over here as such. Everyone? No rocket science over here. Just copy, paste, keep on changing the things over here. Now, once this is done, what I want to do is I want to go to the API test. We're going to take a very simple test over here. Let's say we decide to go for something like login API test 3 itself, like something very basic I want. Like I don't want any fancy things. This is the one. I want to attach the test listener to this particular test class. How do I do that? Which annotation will come into picture? If I want to attach a listener to this particular class, what will I use over here? Which annotation? At the late listener. And you're going to give com.api listeners dot test listener dot class. Okay. Like if everything works in our favor. Okay. And if I run this particular stuff, can you see the logs are getting generated? It's an informational log. Com.api test listener test root dot started login test description, verify if login API is working, right? This is the response which I'm getting back. Okay. And if I refresh this particular project, I should see a logs folder. Inside the logs folder, I'll see the logs. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Yes, no? Everyone on the page? We call yes, no? Are we on the same page, guys? This is something similar we have done in the past. So if this was something that we have done similar in the past, the class should end over here, right? But the class starts now. Okay. The thing over here, guys, is if you look carefully, what is missing in this log? If you look carefully, is the log enough? Is it solving the entire stuff, whatever you were looking for? The answer is no. If I'm looking at the log, shouldn't it be great if I am able to see the payload? I'm able to see the endpoint. I'm able to see the response. I'm able to see the header, right? I'm able to see the status code coming into picture. यानी जो log मेरे को यहाँ पे दिख रहा है ऐसा कुछ वो मेरे को यहाँ क्यों नहीं दिख रहा? Getting the point. That's something which I want over here, that I can rely it on a much more like it gives me more detailed information, as simple as that. But how to do that? So over here, if you look carefully, if you look at the login test, how do I pass the header information? How do I pass this base URI, the body, the response status code? ये जो सारी information हम test से ले रहे हैं, response से ले रहे हैं या request को दे रहे हैं, how do I capture it off some way and I can give it to this particular listener? Are you getting my problem? Yes, no? How can I take the payload from there and I can give it to over here? Some people will say that you use the result. Make sense? ये result को use करो. But result में तो मैं सिर्फ I can only access the information which is about the test. I cannot access something which is inside the test method. Are you getting the problem? You can access the information of the test, the description, the status code, the group, sorry, the description, the test name, the groups that they belong to, priority. I can get all those informations. When the test started, when the test got completed, all those information I can get from this at the rate test annotation if I decide to use this I test result. That's the reason I got method name. That's the reason I got get a description and all. But what about these chaps? Right? How do I get कि बाबा मैं उदय पास कर रहा था? Right? How do I get the information? How do I get the status code? Are you getting the problem over here? Yes, no? Yes, no. That's the most important thing. First thing, the problem needs to be understood by everyone. What I want and like what I'm not able to do right now. Okay. This is the major problem that we have. Now, to overcome this particular problem, the term that is coined is something which is called as interception. Okay. The term that is coined over here is interception. So before I write this particular code, write code is rather difficult. Nahi hai. Like, you thinking like what this diagram I made it and all, it's not difficult. Okay. You need to understand something. What is the meaning of intercepting? See, intercepting is basically a software term. It basically means catching or interrupting something while it is moving from point A to point B. Okay. Similarly, when you try to intercept a passing of a football, like two players are playing football and someone comes in between and take the football away, right? It allows you to perform action before letting continue its journey. In context of this, logging filter code intercepting means the HTTP request is created by your application before it reaches to the server, okay, for the further processing. Before it is going to hit the endpoint, the filter catches it, intercepts it, and it is going to examine the request, modify anything that I want to do, decide whether to let go or continue or block it. So what we will do over here in this scenario, I'll first explain you from here. This is going to be my test method. Inside my test, my rest assured code is there. Okay. So when this method is going to be executed, Java or rest assured library will try to make a post request to my server. Up. Before it makes the request to the server, I will intercept it. ये होने के पहले, post request होने के पहले ही, we will intercept it. Intercept basically means interrupting, blocking something for some time, or you want to capture something from there or do any kind of a modification. मैं इस पर अंदर आऊंगा. Okay, intercept करूंगा. This interception is going to be done by a special entity in your rest assured, which is called as filter. Filter का काम है intercept करना. And what exactly it is going to do? It is going to intercept your request. Why it is intercepting your request? Because in your request, you have your header, or I'll say you have your base URI, you have your header, you have your body, you have your any other information that you're passing over there. So I will log these particular information from here. So filter is going to help me log the base URI, header, body while intercepting the request. Is this part clear to everyone? Are you getting the point? What exactly filter is going to do for us? Yes, no? Are we on the same page? If you look carefully, look this particular diagram. I have this particular test class. This test class is going to make the request. Now, while it is making the request and it is trying to reach to this particular endpoint on my server, मेरा login filter आ जाएगा. That is, my filter will intercept it. It is going to intercept the request. It is going to log the request information, the method URI, header and payload. It is going to be logged over here by the log4j. और फिर वो आगे उसको भेज देगा. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Is this part clear to everyone? How it is going to go? Similarly, once the response is going to come, because you have a filter, once the response is going to come, again it is going to do the same thing. Response हमारे test case से पहले, before the response reaches the test case, the filter is again going to intercept it. And it is going to capture the information from the response. And it is going to log it for us. Making sense to everyone? What exactly it is going to do? It is creating a mediator between your test and the server. Okay, the endpoint that you're making the request to. What data is going to go from the test? It is going to intercept, capture it, put it in the log, and then send it for further processing. Reverse also, when the response comes, logger filter or logging filter is going to take the data, filter it off, put it in the log file or on the console, and then it is going to give for further assertion. This is what interception means. Is this part clear to everyone? Now, how it is going to work? Okay. So the goal over here, it's pretty simple. Keep एक point से दूसरे point के बीच में interrupt करना. From your test case to your server. before the request reaches the server, I will try to capture all the information and log it off. That's all I want to do. Nothing fancy. Because there is no other way. There is no other way you will be able to capture any of these things from your test to the listener. So that's where the new component of your framework comes into picture, which is going to be the filters. In interview, they can ask the question, what are filters in Java or rest assured? And you need to answer it from the basis of interception. Filters helps you intercept the request. Okay. Then the interviewer asks, what is the meaning of interception? Interception basically means that before I make the request, if I want to capture any information, maybe for logging purpose, maybe for reporting purpose, I need to intercept it. And that's where filters comes into picture. So what I'm going to do is here I will be creating a class which is going to be called as logging filter. जो बोलना है बोलो इसको, logging filter I'm going to call it. Now, what to do with this particular class? I don't know. So what I will do is I'm going to search for something called as an interface, which is called as filters. Okay. Logging filter implements filter, and I have to add this unimplemented method called filter method. So in interview, they ask you, tell me the different interfaces that you have used in your project. Don't just rely on test ng interfaces. I test listener, I retry analyzer. Now start remembering filter also from rest assured. Clear to everyone? Should I start writing the code over here? Yes? Yes or no? Now, the next thing that comes into picture, making the stuff over here is pretty simple. It's not very difficult one. What it is going to do? Logging filter, it is going to log things for us, right? So, my dear friends, since the job is to do the logging, you're going to create another logger over here. Private static, okay, final logger. Logger, you're going to take it from Apache Log4j. I'm going to call this as logger equal to log manager dot get logger. Okay. And just give the current class name. That's it. Finish. Because we want to log the request. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to create two methods. Public void log request. Okay. And since you want to log the request, you want to take a request specification, filterable request specification. Just take this particular stuff, put it over here. Okay, what it's going to do, I'll tell you in a moment. And then you are going to take the response coming into picture. Okay, I'm going to create something public void log response. Okay, done. Response, not this response. Just the response. Now understand what happens over here. What we are going to do is, I'm going to call the log request. I'm going to call the log request and I'm going to pass the request specification. This request specification consists of all the information about the request. कि बाबा base URL क्या है, header क्या है, body क्या है. All those things I will be able to get it over here. So filterable request specification is going to give you the information of the request. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to say logger, the logger which I have created .info. Okay. Now observe. What do you want to log? I want to log base URI. So I can write something called over here as base URI colon. And I can say request specification dot get me the base URI. Is this part clear to everyone? What I've written over here? Yes or no? So base URI along with the base URI will be printed for you. Copy this. What do I need next? Header chahiye. So I can just say request header. Okay. Just change it over here to get me the header. Okay. Copy this. What do you need? Body. Request payload. Okay. Get the body. What else you need? Let's say, I think so. These are the enough stuff. Base URI, you're going to get everything, whatever is written over here. Now, once you have made the log request, right? You see this filter context. I've written it in the diagram also. Pehle log request ko call karo. Then you have to make the request. You have to intercept it. I have intercepted it. So I only have to make sure that it gets continued. So over here, I have to say ctx, okay, dot next. And over here, just pass the request specification and the response specification. Next is going to return you the response. यहाँ पे वो request बनेगा because we have intercepted it. Now we came in between. Okay, वो तो जा रहा था. It was going without the interception. I came in between to capture the information. I am capturing it off. Should I just stop over here? No, I want the request to be continued. So I'm just going to make sure the request is made now. This is where your request is going to be executed. Okay, next is going to return me the response. Oops. Is my voice audible? Yeah. Is my voice audible? Yes. Okay. There was an issue with my net. Yeah. So I'm just going to have the response coming into picture. And if you observe carefully, I'm logging the response. Here I'm logging the response. So the response which I'm going to get, we have to make sure that this is also logged. So I'm just going to call log response, pass the response. Okay. And over here, the same stuff. I have the response. I'm just going to take these information, put it over here. I'm going to say response dot get me the status code. So I can write over here status code. Okay. I can say response dot get me the body. Okay. So I'm just going to get response body. Okay. I can just say dot pretty print. Then probably I want response header or something. I'm just going to say response header. Okay. So I'm just going to get response header. Okay. Take this, cut it and just put it a little bit up, something like this. Okay. So now even the response body will be logged. Whatever the response you're going to get, it will be logged in this test log file. So if I just scroll down, this is how it looks. First, I'm logging the request. Okay. Then you are going to get the response. You are going to log the response and finally just return the response because you have to return response back now. So just return the response back for further assertion. So यहाँ से आप response return कर दोगे, it's going to be taken to the test for assertion. Okay, that's something that you need to write it off. Done. Finish. Look at this piece of code over here for a moment. Okay. So over here, while logging filter is created, that is more important. You have created the logging filter so that you can capture the request payload as well as the response. Is this part clear to everyone? What is filter going to do? It is going to do the interception. It is going to intercept your request so that you can log the request information as well as you can log the response information in your logs. Okay, not only just in logs, even in your HTML files and all, you have to do it this way itself. Okay. So logging filter is going to implement the filter. Here you are going to create the log. Okay, then you're going to have the filter method coming into picture. Make sure that you are creating two methods called log request and log response. And you are just going to print the log information over here. Is this part clear to everyone? Are we on the same page? This is very important. Done. Now, how do I use it into my test scripts? Okay. Basically, filters are something that you need to set up to the base service. So you're going to go to the base service where we are using rest assured. You're going to say rest assured dot filter. You have to attach a filter over here. So you will create the object of logging filter. Done. Now, this setup needs to be done only once. Once your program get executed, you don't need to do it again and again. I don't want to put it inside the constructor because if I'm going to do the parallel execution, हर बार constructor call होते जाएगा. But I want this particular execution to happen only once. Is there a Java entity that can help me execute this code block only once? Yes or no? Is there a Java entity? Is there a Java concept that can execute this code block only once? Static block, right? So if you're going to make something in a, or put something in a static block, it will be executed only once. All right. And it is going to be available for everyone. You're done. Filters are introduced in your project. So if everything works correctly the way we are expecting, if I click on the play button, okay. If I go to the test log, is this part clear to everyone? Okay. I'm able to see the entire stuff the way we wanted. Clear? This is the payload. This is the status code. Everything, whatever you wanted. Okay. This is important. Okay. Now, we have introduced the final stuff, the logging that we wanted over here. Now, we have created a lot of things. To be honest, this is this particular framework has a lot of components over there and it's doing a decent job for us. The next thing that probably I want is I want to run this particular test from terminal. Why would I want to run this particular test from terminal? What is the benefit that I'll get? If you're going to run this particular project from terminal, the benefit is I can easily integrate it with GitHub Actions. I can easily integrate it with your CI tools. The main goal is to never run it from Eclipse. The main goal is to find a way to run it from the terminal. So over there, guys, I will be using your special plugin, which is called as your Maven Surefire plugin. Do you remember the Maven Surefire plugin? Yes or no? What exactly Maven Surefire plugin is going to do? So Maven Surefire plugin is going to help us run the test, okay, from the terminal. I can control the execution from Maven itself. But before that, I want to make sure that a XML file is created, a suit XML file is created over here. So you don't really need to by heart any of the scripts over here. Just go to the test, take this fail.xml file, put it outside because it has the exact structure that we need. I'm just going to change the name of the test suite name. I'm going to give this as API test suite. Okay. And nothing, I don't need this environment information. You can remove it. Okay. This is going to be, the test name is going to be just like API test. We are just executing this particular class. Done. Okay, so if you're going to have respective, you're going to have other classes, you can just arrange it over here. You know how exactly test.ng XML file works. All right. So this is something that we have created and kept. I'm going to save it over here. Something is missing. Yeah, S. Yeah. Let's save it off. Was it a difficult thing? You know, right? How exactly this file gets created, right? So I'm going to right click over here. I'm going to right click, rename this particular file. And I'm just going to call this as suit.xml file. Done. Clear? Everyone? Now go to the pom.xml file. And over here, we will be introducing a plugin in the build section. Create a build tag. Inside the build tag, you're going to have plugins. Okay. And we will be introducing your Maven Surefire plugin. So scroll down, take this Maven Surefire plugin. Just copy this entire stuff. Kuch nahi karna hai. Copy karo. Paste it off. Change the path. Okay. And save it. Okay. Now, the thing is, I have parameterized it. $suite.xml file. This is what I'm writing over here. Meaning I have to pass the file name. I have to pass the file name from the terminal. If you write over here directly suite.xml file, it is going to run this chap only. But I know that there might be a scenario I will have multiple XML files. I will create one for regression, one for smoke, one for sanity, okay, or one for E2E, something like that. I can do it off. So that time, guys, I want to pass the file name from the terminal. So this is something that we have created. Okay. Now, there is one more extra thing that we are supposed to do. We are using Java version 11, right? We are using Java version 11. So what you do in this scenario is you also add the compiler version. That is going to be important. So I'm just going to take something called the Maven compiler version. This is just so that you're telling Maven that your project needs to be compiled against a specific version of Java. Okay. So here if I write 1.8, it basically means Java 8. अभी इसको निकाल के अगर मैं 11 कर दूंगा तो ये Java 11 पे चलेगा. Is this part making sense to everyone? Yes or no? Perfect. Can I go ahead? Yep. This is something mandatory. You have to put it off. Okay. Don't mug up code. You need these things in this setup. All right. Save this particular stuff and you're done. The project is ready. Now, if I just minimize this chap, right click over here to your project, go to show in System Explorer. I'm just going to say git bash here. And over here, how do you execute this project? Maven clean test -d. What was the variable name over here? This is the variable name. $suite. Not suite is the name of the variable name. So I'm going to say equal to suite. Because my file name over here is suite.xml. So just hit enter. I could have written -x. Yep, exactly the same. Are you getting the point? I did not change anything what we have done in Telit. Exactly the same I have configured it for you guys. Is this part clear to everyone? How to pass environment from command prompt. For that also, you need to create property files and all those things. I've already covered it off in the Telit part. So you can really watch that particular stuff. It will be much more easier. So you have to create property files, and even that property files, I need to configure it over here that I'll be getting those parameters. And from the parameters, it is going to go to the XML file. It's going to take a little bit time to set up. That's the reason I'm telling you to watch it from the Telit one. It will be easier. Okay. But it's going to be exactly the same. Like if I'm writing it over here, okay. If I clean this particular stuff or, like I just run this stuff, I'm passing one parameter called suite. Okay. That's the name of my file. So I can have another parameter called environment and I can give away a QA, right? So there should be a way to handle it off on my framework. Okay, that I have already covered it off in the Telit part. Now, this is done. Okay. Now it's the time to push this particular project in your GitHub. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert it into your Git repository. So I'm going to say share project, create the repository, finish. Now over here, guys, don't jump into committing all these things in one shot, right? We have created a lot of things and some of these things are not mandatory over here. What is not mandatory or what is not something that you want to commit? Anything that is auto-generated. Am I generating test out of, have I written test how hyphen output code? Is this particular stuff created by me or is it auto-generated? Auto-generated. So something which is auto-generated, you will always ignore. Next, target folder. I have not done anything for this chap. So I'm going to right click, go to team, ignore. You see number of files are getting reduced now. Then logs. We did not create the logs. I have written the code, but this is auto-generated. Team, ignore. And we are done. We have created 26 files. Okay. I'm going to bring all the files into the staging area and I'm going to say this is my base code. Then I'm going to say commit. Now we are going to go to your GitHub. We are going to quickly create a new repository. I'm going to call this as demo API automation framework. Copy this, put it here also. I'm just going to make it as a public repository, create a repository over here. Copy this particular stuff, copy the remote repository URL, push it. Done. Okay. So if I close it, go back over here, refresh it, the code is here. Is this part clear to everyone? Is this part clear to everyone? Are we on the same page, guys? Everyone? Now, suppose if this was an interview question, will I just stop over here? The answer is no. You have to make sure that you integrate it with the CI tool also. So I'm just going to go with GitHub Actions over here. I'm going to go to GitHub Actions. This is a Java-based project. Okay. There are a lot of stuff that I can easily search for the workflow for related to Java or Maven. Okay. But I feel I can easily do the initial setup. But if you want, you can just search for Java Maven, hit enter. Okay. And you're going to go with something which is called as Java with Maven. And it basically gives you the basic setup things which you require over here for execution. We'll use this only and I'll modify changes over here. I'm going to say commit this changes or not right now. We'll modify it off first. Let's remove these things. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to give over here is the name. I'm going to call this as API testing. Let's say API test framework. Next, we are going to set up Java 11. This is going to check out the code. This step is going to check out your code. This step is going to set up Java 11. So JDK 11 I've written over here and just change 17 to 11. And over here, rest of the stuff is fine. This is where you will be writing your command. So I'm just going to say execute test. And I'll write the command over here. Maven clean test hyphen D suite equal to the suite and just give hyphen X. Remove these things. This is optional. Is this part clear to everyone? Just click on commit changes. Okay. Commit it off. And I'll just wait for this particular stuff to get started. Okay. If I go to actions, it's getting executed. Does it look familiar? I've executed the test from your CI tool. Clear? The basic setup, basic bare minimum setup that I've done over here. Okay, just changed couple of things and it is running. Okay, but if I want to take it a little bit further, if you have a lot of other options coming into picture, that is something that we can do now. Once I have this particular Maven YML file created, I want to, let's say, make few changes over here so that we can set up the cron. I want to run the test on a certain time span, or, like I want to archive reports and all those things we will do now. So on the pull request, the next thing that I want over here is to have something called as a schedule. Okay. And I will have a cron coming into picture. So the cron will look, the cron format, if you remember, is the 5 star. I want to run the test at 11:30 p.m. IST. Okay. So if I want to run the test 11:30 p.m. IST, the scheduler is always going to look at what time, which time is going to be taken into consideration. Yes. Which time it takes over here? UTC time. The time which you always give is going to be the UTC time. So you have to make sure that you do UTC to IST converter. Okay. So just give me a moment. So just go to Google and search for UTC to IST converter. Okay. And over here, you just give, let's say, I want to run it at 11:30 p.m. So if my goal is to run it at 11:30 p.m., it should be executed at 6 p.m. That is 1800. Okay. So this particular stuff, I'm using it as a reference. And over here, what I can do is I just need to make just a small change. This particular cron, okay, you are supposed to give the time in 6 p.m. So over here, we'll come back over here, just change it. And I'm just going to say 6 p.m. So 00:18. And I want to run every single day, every single month, every single day. So this first star is going to signify your month. Then it is going to signify the date. Then it is going to signify the day. Okay. Just bringing my cursor over here. So it is going to run every single day at 6 p.m. UTC. That is going to become 11:30 p.m. for me. Is this part clear to everyone? Yeah. Is this part clear? I can also set up multiple crons based on my requirement. I can have one more field like this and just going to search for, let's say, I want to run my test, let's say around 8:30 a.m. So I have to make it 3 a.m. So just make it 3 a.m. Done. Now this is going to run at 3 a.m. for me. That 3 a.m. is eventually going to be how much? 8:30 a.m. for me. So before my day start, my test will be executed. Okay. The next thing that I want to do is I want to archive the reports. We have done it a lot of time for the upload build artifacts and all. So you can just go to this upload build artifacts. Okay. This is the extension, or this is the action that you're supposed to use. And it's pretty simple. You just give the name, upload build artifact. Then it is going to use this action. Copy this. Okay. It's going to use this action. The next thing, that the indentation is important. So just make sure the indentation is proper. And over here, the width, you have to specify width artifact. I'm just going to call this as name. Okay. It's going to give a little bit space. and this is going to be logs. Okay. And where will I find the logs? So you are supposed to give the path. Okay. So over here, the default of file path. Okay. And the final thing that I'm supposed to give is the path over here. Yeah, path. So it should be path colon. We will find the logs in the logs folder. So this logs folder is already at the root level. So just put logs and you're done. Clear? So it is going to archive the logs for us. Now I can just commit the changes. Let's see whether it works. The moment you make a change, your action is automatically going to be executed. Okay, so if I'm running it again one more time, okay. So it says upload a build artifact. It has done. So if I just go back to the framework, okay, and refresh it. Here you see the logs file. If I download it, file got downloaded. I can open it. This is a test log. I will be able to see the logs also. Is this part clear to everyone? Are we on the same page? People in the call, everyone. Are we on the same page over here? Okay, done. No, not really. In this one, I'm not going to use it. Okay. Now, once this is done, the next thing that I want is I want to have the extension, or I want to use an action which is going to just publish the test reports. So you can directly take this particular test report, guys. Don't need to worry about anything else. There's another action which is called by Dorney test hyphen reporter. So it is going to look for an XML file. But the thing is, it only looks for JUnit reports. Okay. Luckily, when you use the Maven Surefire plugin, in the test hyphen output folder, you find this JUnit report. Okay. And over here, we are interested in reading this test hyphen all these XML files. We want to read all these XML files over there. Okay. So what you can do now is you can just copy this entire plugin. Sorry, action, my bad. And now let's come back over here to actions. Let's edit it one more time. And let's introduce this chap also. Okay, done. So over here, guys, one more important thing, even in for your build artifact, make sure even if my test is passing or my test is failing, you want to make sure that the reports are getting archived or the logs are getting archived. So make sure you use if always here also as well as here also. It is going to search for the JUnit reports. Okay. Anything that is going to start with test word. You see, the name can be different. Test-com.api test account creation. Forgot password. Get profile password test. So the name can be anything, but it should start with the word test with capital. That's what I've written over here. And one more thing that you want to give over here is the permission. So if I come back over up, you have to give the permission to read, check, and like write the issues and all those things. So I'm just going to copy this permission. Just take this part and you introduce it in the after the run on section. Okay, after the run on, you just introduce this chap and you're done. Okay. Okay. So what is going to be happening? It will be able to write all those information on your dashboard. So just click on commit the changes. Let's save it. Let's click on details. It has published the test results. You can see this test ng results section. If I click over here, ta-da, done. All right. This is something, and this is how you're supposed to submit your assignment. Okay. So people who have solved the crisp assignment, or you have solved the um, Phoenix assignment, or if you're doing this assignment also, make sure you submit, or whenever an interview comes into picture, they tell you to write API test, or they tell you to create an API automation framework, you have to do till year and submit it off. Is this part making sense to everyone? This one is a little bit tricky for sure. I mean, like, because I'm pretty sure you're doing it for the first time. Okay. So I don't expect you guys to know it in one shot. Like, if you look at the previous lecture that has happened, it was like we have seen Java concepts. You might be aware of a little bit of REST assured scripts and all. But this really takes it to a little bit bigger level, a little bit advanced stuff. Okay. But I promise you, if you put like 2, 3 attempts in doing these things, you're done. That's the reason I said, like, you need to be sure that you have solved the telet assignment. People who have solved the telet assignments, the only difference over here is of like around 10-15%. Rest, all the stuff was same. Did I use Surefire plugin over there? Yes. Did I integrate it with GitHub Action? Yes. Did I use the listener? Yes. Did I use the logger? Yes. The only difference that has happened over there is of the filter. Makes sense to everyone. Apart from that, everything else was same. Okay. That's it. Not for now, buddy. I have to plan it something on that. It will be available on the LMS. I don't think I will be able to take it in the live sessions. Okay. I'll put it off somewhere on the LMS. Okay. So please study from the LMS, people who haven't studying it over there. It should be running over there. I don't know which build number is this. This build number is 3, right? Okay. So generally what happens is, since it's a free one, right? So it should be executing between 11:35, okay, or 11:25. They try to, like, give you the 11, not exactly on the 11:30 it will execute. I'll get a message in some time, okay, that the build was executed at all. Okay. I'll have to wait. You can keep a track over here on this one. Okay. It was executed 4 minutes ago. That was because of us only, but we'll just have to wait. Okay. How to send automation execution reports on email. When you use GitHub Action, you can definitely get the access or notifications directly to whoever have the access to the repository. Okay. So if you give the access to the repository, they will get the notifications. Okay. So over there, it can work, but I think there will be some kind of an extension or an action available for that. But then again, you need to do the setup of SMTP. You need to give the creds and all. So that's will be a different stuff. Okay. But over here, if you give the access to the repository, you will get the notifications. Any other questions, guys? I'll give you the permission to unmute. For Jenkins, as in what? You can ask the question. Like, if you want to do the execution in Jenkins, the command will be same. There's nothing fancy it's going to change over there in Jenkins. You will do exactly same. Okay, you're going to create a freestyle project and you have to just use the command which we have used over there. That is this command. Okay. Just use this command. It will work. Okay. This is something that I was just showing you, but this is something that you need to use. Provided you need to have Maven and Java installed on your server, Jenkins server. Okay, only then you will be able to execute it. But looking at the current trends which are happening, people might migrate, or people have already started migrating from your Jenkins to GitHub Actions, because it takes away the lot of headache of yours, like to take care of these executions and all, like the setup. Okay, I can do everything directly on this repository level. Okay, the same is with your GitLab runner also. Okay. Next question, guys. Any other questions?
So, Jatin, so are you including this payload creation, that complex JSON or nested JSON and all? So, because JSON is only simple
Which one? This one?
login.
We never really created login response. We never really passed the payload. If you remember, if you look at the
We have
screen.
created that Pojo classes for
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did the same for the response, right? If you go to close all, let me just close
No,
this
that
chat.
is for the simple request.
Not really. I'll show you this one. The response. Okay. This is for the user profile response. But if you were having the nesting also, you can just keep on continuing it and creating different Pojo objects. It's still going to work over there. The
Okay.
goal is to understand how to create the Pojo classes. That's it, done. Okay. So in this, I am not able to see the sign up request and all. I think so. It was just for the one level. But if you're going to have multiple levels also, you just need to create the composition layers coming into picture. So nothing great changes off over there. You give me a complex JSON, we can easily create it off over there. Okay.
And are you covering that how to, because in the API testing data is important. So how to get a data from the database?
You need to use the JDBC connectivity that time. Okay. You will find that part on the LMS right now. If you go to the Java part, right? Like post the last lectures of Java, which I'm aware of, they will release is going to be on the JDBC. Okay. It's never about, see, the thing is, when you look at a framework perspective, you are looking at from that I need to read the data from database, or I want to read the data from Excel, I want to read the data from different sources, so I want to generate the data. That is from the testing perspective you're looking it for. But eventually you're talking something which needs to be a feature in Java, or you want to create a functionality in Java over there. So when you're looking at from a database, reading data from the database is not the problem. How you're going to connect to the database, how you're going to create the data access objects. Okay, if you're able to create those things quickly, then your job is done. And then you have to again do the mapping. Because if I'm going to read the data from the database, I need to map it to the Pojo class. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that Pojo class will be passed to the API request. Make sense?
Yeah.
That is something that we'll eventually need to do it off. Okay. That
So,
stuff I'll probably try to keep it in the LMS itself.
okay.
Okay. But it will be there for sure.
Yeah. If you will add, that is useful for me.
I'll do
Because
it off over there. Even for the complex JSON, see, like I don't have any, like right now, I don't see any major payloads over here. But the thing is, if you have a complex JSON, or like something you want to convert it into Pojo, you can share it off to me. I'll show you how to create it off over there. That's not a big thing.
Yeah.
Because see, right now everything was string. Okay. If tomorrow, let's say they say that mobile number is going to have multiple mobile numbers, like an array would be there. So I have to make sure that this becomes a list. Okay, a list will be created over here. Okay. Or mobile number is going to have another JSON object inside it. Then again, I have to create another JSON object out of it. Okay. I think I have discussed on that part, but no problem. I'll create it again.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, folks? Okay. Any other questions? I'm still waiting for this particular chap to run, but it's still not running for some reason. Okay. Yeah. Abhishek, Akash, all clear? Other folks, any doubts? Okay, so we can stop for today. This is something you need to practice this part. Okay, can't do anything on this part, but it will take time. Make sure you do it off pretty well. You guys have the notes, everyone? Is the notes available with you all? Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you practice it off from there. Okay. So that's wraps it up for us. One lecture was remaining about the report creation. I mean, like if I'm able to create the logs, obviously reports will be there, right? You want the extent report to come into picture. I want to take the report section tomorrow, but it will require you guys to, have a little bit clarity on extent report working and all, because that time you need to have you need to understand thread locals and all those things, and those things are already covered pretty well in the telit one. So that's the reason, like I was behind every one of you guys complete the telit assignment, because if you do that part, you'll understand the entire ecosystem in a much more better way. Okay, so please make sure you complete that one. Once it is done, then probably I'll think of, like taking the extent report and all, or I'll upload it off directly on the, like in your classroom recordings and all, you'll find it over there. Who was there, Akhil, the test started to execute right now. See, so that's something that has happened. And make sure you practice this much. The generating report will not be the main thing, but main issue as such. But if you are comfortable um, only with the telit, then watch it off. Else it's going to be a pure bouncer. You'll be like just attending the class, literally understanding nothing out of it. I want to take it off, buddy, but the thing is, key, if I take it off, then again people will say that it's going to go bouncer. So, okay. So I don't want to do that part. You already have the access to the LMS, and the first thing that you should do is complete the telit one. Bro, I've been telling people to complete it part as soon as possible. करते ही नहीं है लोग. So that's the reason. Okay. I have already implemented it off. It's already kept over here at my end. If you see somewhere like the SRC main Java. Yeah. The reporting is already created and kept over here. Now, the only thing that comes into picture is if I start introducing all these things, okay, it's not something that it should go bouncer. Okay. कुछ है बड़ा नहीं काम करना. It's like, and it's a one-time activity. If you want, I can give you the code right away. You can take it in your chat box and keep it. Okay. But the point is, if lecture needs to happen, people need to understand that part. Else it's going to go a little bit bouncer itself. I'll do one thing. This is the main project, right? I'll give it to you. Show in.
So, Jatin, it's covered in this extent manager, means this report, how to attach this header and authorization and response and all in the report.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Because I know what generally happens, right? Is, see, if you go to the report, I'll show that part of it. So at least we can discuss about it. The show in. Can you see the output?
Yeah.
Okay. So how exactly the response needs to look, what will be the response, and all those things. I've kept it off over there when the test is passing and all those things are there. This is something that generally you want to have it in the API request, API
Yes,
reports and all.
yes.
Okay. So you can take this particular framework. Okay, I'll give you this part itself. Show in. Yeah, done. I put it in the download section or like attached in the chat, guys. People can download this one. This is the entire framework for the rest assured. It has the logger. It has everything. Only the structure is a little bit different over there. I was just practicing certain things. So even if you want to practice it off, just remember one thing. I have kept these things in SRC main Java. कुछ फर्क हो गया क्या? नहीं. The only difference is only the test is there in the form.api test. Okay. SRC main Java has the other things. I have the API filter also. This is the same filter I created today for you. Okay. And this is the only difference. That's it. Okay. Nothing fancy as such. All right. We'll stop over here for today, guys. This, I believe, ends the group session for you guys. Okay. I hope you have understood how exactly this particular stuff is created. Hope you liked the session. Was it useful for you guys? I don't know. Was it useful? People who have seen this particular stuff, whatever I've created so far.
Yes, Jatin. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you will be able to answer all the interview related questions related to your API automation framework. Where बंद तो करने दे मीटिंग भाई पहले. ठीक है. So the lecture will be available I think so by tomorrow itself. And the next thing over here, guys, is practice this particular stuff. And the second thing that comes over here, guys, is whether two assignments, if you want to prepare for interviews, tell it Karlo, and the one which I've covered over here. I mean, like the better quality, I wanted to release it off in this year, this month itself, but it's not going to happen. So I thought, when it's ready, I'll just take it in the group session. You will be able to answer most of the stuff. कुछ और करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. Okay. Okay, that's something. That's the reason I created the
How to
entire
do masking?
masking.
Because it's required. We have to mask that authorization part.
Authorization part, if you want to mask it off, as in you want to hide it off in the reports, that's what you're asking?
Either hide from testing also or report also. Yeah, masking.
From testing,
how to do the masking?
Give me a scenario over here. Give me a
Means
good.
they don't want that username and password and auth token. They don't want to.
They
In
don't
the
want to see
report.
it. They don't want to see
Yeah.
it in the report, right?
Yeah,
If they
yeah.
don't want to see it in the report, that's where you have your filters coming into picture. आप यहाँ पे उसको avoid कर सकते हो. So when I'm setting the extent manager report, if you see carefully, I'm controlling it, everything, what exactly the things needs to be there. So when you're getting a header, right? मैं उसमें से एक header पहले check कर लूंगा कि बाबा वो authorization का तो है या नहीं. अगर वो नहीं है, अगर है, तो I will just put the values as hash 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 and then I'm gonna continue it off. So even if I want to make any changes, I have to do it over here. Okay. For the reports and as well as for the logs. Okay, the same thing over here. Masking के लिए यहीं पे करना है आपको change. Okay. But it will be covered. I'll put it off in the LMS. I'll remember it off. आपको masking चाहिए, वो मैं LMS में डाल दूंगा. यहाँ पे अभी इसको sense ही नहीं बनता. मैं कर दूंगा, आपको ऊपर से जाएगा. Okay. But if I want, I'll modify the script and give it to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jatin.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes, guys. Any other questions? So this wraps up your entire API journey for the entire framework that we wanted to build. 3 scenarios as I remember. One is the JDBC connectivity which you want. Masking. Reporting I have already shown you. Any other requirement, you guys can reach it off to me. I'll plan it off, like if I can put it in the stuff. now before I end, because I don't get time to usually connect, I'm changing few things here and there, but I hope like I'm able to get that time. So the thing is, I have wrapped up, as I said, for the rest assured, like for the Java modules. Most possibly, the team will release few important lectures for you guys this month itself. So if you are starting, let's say कि भाई कुछ नहीं आता है, okay, or you want to even prepare for the interviews also, something like that, just start with the concept of classes and objects, okay? And I think it is one of the best stuff you'll find it anywhere, because every design pattern, because even if you have used the builder design pattern in your rest assured, I first showed you in your Java itself how it will be coming into picture, okay? So till abstract classes, I believe the team has released it off. Okay. We have seen
I think
marking the particular class as abstract class, your abstract method coming into picture. So those things will be there. A couple of lectures which will be released this week is going to be of interfaces and exception handling. Okay. These two things I have planned for this week. Okay. The future lectures will be your generics, collections, and mapping coming into picture. Maps coming into picture. The entire Java module is going to end on the journey of logger as well as your Java database connectivity. That time, Sujit, I will be creating a scenario where I will read the data from the database and I will put it into a Java object. जब मैं उसको जावा ऑब्जेक्ट में डाल दूंगा, फिर आपको आगे की स्टोरी पता है क्या होने वाली है, कि वो जावा ऑब्जेक्ट को लेके आप रिक्वेस्ट पेलोड में डालोगे. ठीक है. या या एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस? So if you wish, I will suggest you guys to study it from you. Okay, if you want to really make sure that your Java fundas and all those things are clear, so that's something that I've kept it over there. Yeah. Anything else people want to add or say? Please ask. निहारिका समझा ऊपर से गया? Slept or what? Like people, I know it's 12, but all good, right? Anjum, Shraddha, Sindhu joining after a long time. Okay,
Yeah, I'll revise Jatin once.
okay. Not able to unmute. I've given permission to. Okay. Bharat, all good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
cool
I was
guys.
on mute.
Okay. All right, guys. So we'll probably stop for today now. Tomorrow, I believe we won't be connecting. Okay, I will be ending this particular journey over here with logs. Okay. But the future journey, I'll put it on the LMS. Okay, it will be there, the event man extent report, as well as you said, masking and all. I'll try to create 2, 3 rough scenarios and give it to you. If you guys have any requirement, particularly for your framework, for your stuff, feel free to put it out over there, because what happens is when you try to create a framework, okay, जो multiple scenarios cover करता है ना, जैसे अभी आप देखोगे कि सुजीत ने आपको बोला masking करना है, या Java database, like you want to read data from the database and you want to pass it to the payload, right? Report generation. When I started the class, I said the various enhancement that you have done in your framework. These are the things that you can easily remember. Just because it is not happening in your project doesn't mean that you should not be aware of it. Okay? So, okay, this is something that is there. And now I believe if you have studied so far with me, the entire API automation framework and the conditional apply, the tell it का framework देख लिया था आप लोगों ने, you are ready for the interviews. I mean, like just practice it 1, 2 more times or start kar do bhai interview dena. So when January happens, you start giving the interviews. Whether it is going to be good, bad, ugly, we'll see it together. Okay, we'll figure it out how to make it a little bit better over there. All right. So that's all from my end. Okay.